So just as a sort of preamble, my name's Ben Smith. I live here in Bristol in the UK, where it has been raining solidly for 36 hours. And I build spaceships and things out of Lego. Not for any particular reason, just, you know, for the amusement of it. Oh, I'm told we have 41 people watching. Hello, 41 people. I'm going to start by talking about this. Now, I built this relatively recently. And I think what I wanted to do was I wanted to build a tank out of Lego, because when I was a teenager, I was kind of into like plastic model kits, like Tamiya kits and all that kind of stuff, like tanks. And I just really wanted to build sort of a sci-fi kind of tank thing. And I came up with this idea, and it was this idea of a kind of landing vehicle, a sort of Higgins boat in space. If you know what a Higgins boat is, these sort of World War II landing craft that used to run up to the beach and then a ramp would come down. So, you know, D-Day, so people can run out. And this is kind of the sort of space version of it. So if I hold it up to the camera, you can see it's got this little ramp at the front, and it's got all these like super cool space marines pouring out. And the thing it does, which is kind of neat, is that it hovers. Now, for some reason, which is unknown, just before this presentation, it decided to stop hovering, and so it's wedged up a little bit at the end. But what it does under normal circumstances is it's got a whole bunch of Technic down here in the base, so it actually pretty much floats on the ramp at the front. There's nothing holding it up at the back, and it will actually kind of look like it's hovering. And inside the base, there's actually like a little mechanism which lets you kind of rack the angle up and down, because obviously it droops just because it's heavy. So in order to make it look like it's hovering, you kind of crank it back so it looks flat. And everything I build digitally. So I build all my stuff I used to use the LDD software, the Lego Digital Designer software, and now I'm using this new thing. I don't know, is it called Studio or Stud.io? I don't know. But it, you know, and like BrickLink make it, and it's actually very, very good. And this was the first thing I think where I used that. And so my sort of workflow is to kind of design something digitally, and then go and buy all the bits on BrickLink, and then just assemble it, which, you know, usually involves a bit of mucking around because maybe you didn't quite do it right when you were doing it the first time, and so you have to go and fiddle around with it. I don't have a lot of just Lego lying around the house, and I don't have a lot of sort of time to sort of sort it and stuff like that. So I've kind of had to make a go of kind of doing things digitally. And I was quite pleased with this. It's got this quite nice landscape, which you can just about see underneath it, where you've got all these kind of sand blue tiles kind of stuck at different angles to give you this kind of alien planet kind of look. I'm just hoping my camera is focusing. And to give you this kind of nice sort of rocky terrain kind of thing. You can move the little gun turrets here. You can just sort of, so you can pew people. You can pew things that are below, because the idea is that, the theory is that it starts off in space and it flies down to a planet. And so that's why the guns are on the side. So it can pew things beneath it whilst it's flying down. And then when it gets there, it can pew things off to the side and everything. It's got these nozzles here that turn, so it can zoom in different directions and stuff. And it's got a little dude who sits out the top, who's just sort of wedged in just a tiny bit. But this was quite fun to do. This was quite good. And I put did some custom stickers. So this one, I know a company that they print stickers onto like transparent vinyl, and they're quite nice. So you can get stickers that are kind of, you know, they kind of match the kind of Lego look, the kind of official kind of look. And so I've got like a bunch of custom stickers to do all the sort of graphics, which make it look a bit more sort of tanky and stuff like that. I'm just looking to see if there's any questions coming in. It's coming across beautifully on camera. Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Thank you for telling me that, because otherwise I have no idea what I'm doing. I'll show you, give you the front elevation, and of course you got these space dudes, and I think this was one of the collectible minifigs from a few years ago. And I had one of them, but I had to go out and buy a few more and get them sort of charging down the ramp. There's kind of something going off inside, but not really, because obviously most of the internal space is just sort of taken up with you know, hinges and things to get the kind of shaping of what you actually see on the outside. There's not like a huge amount of space on the inside. So if anyone has any questions about this, I can do those now. Otherwise, I'm going to get the thing which is off over here next to me and talk about that. I'll just park this one over here. So I'm going to talk about this for a moment. This was mine when I was a kid. Everyone knows what this is, right? This, I don't know, maybe in the US, we call this Galaxy Explorer, and I don't know if in the US you have a different name for it. I know some of these old sets had different US names. This literally was mine like 40 years ago when I was a kid, and I remember having this thing, and this was like the biggest Lego set that we had when I was a kid, and it was like it was so big, you know. It has this door at the back, and there's actually a little car that can go and live up inside it. That's how big it is. And you look at it now, and you go, "Well, that's like, you know, that's like a $40 set. That's like not particularly impressive, right?" But I always loved this thing. And then a few years ago, I was at one of the Lego shows here in the UK, the Western Brick Show. And I came home from it, and then I started to get Facebook messages from Pete Reed, who is the guy who designed that exosuit set from a few years ago, and is kind of the guy who sort of defined the neoclassic space style a few years ago. And he starts nagging me, "Can you build something classic space? Can you build something classic space?" So I built this. I'm going to slide over. This is my sort of modern rehash of Galaxy Explorer. Oh, I need to turn the lights on. Hold on. There you are, because it all lights up. And so this was kind of a case of saying, okay, the original is kind of a thing, and it's let's build a kind of modern reinterpretation of it. But I wanted to do it in a very, very different style, and to make it, frankly, just to make it feel kind of real, to make it feel like it was something more credible and something that might be, and it might exist in the world of like Homeworld or Elite Dangerous or something like that. And I always really just liked that, the shaping of the original thing, the way that it has that kind of, the outline of it. And I wanted to keep that. And I think the thing with this one was the moment that this one kind of made sense for me was the original classic space sets. They always have this, basically it's a big gray wing with a blue superstructure on top, and then these transparent yellow windows. And the idea here was to do something where the blue and there's not like a separate blue structure on top. It's just all the same shape, and it's only really differentiated in color. And so it's all very smooth, and to sort of get away from, there's not a lot of kind of greebling and kind of little details all over it. I'll spin it around a bit so you can see it, because obviously it lights up, so it's got big engines on the back, like that. It's got this kind of neat, ooh, where are we? Sort of, can you see that? The flashy lights inside there? A question just popped up on my screen, and I need to click a button to see it. Yeah, you've got these lights, and so there's like a little circuit inside that makes these kind of flashing lights work. It's got an interior, which I will now endeavour to show to you, which involves picking the thing up and holding it up to the camera, so you can see the whole kind of interior going on in there. There's a bunch of little space dudes pressing buttons, having a good time, all that kind of stuff. And obviously you're trying to sort of pay homage to these kind of, you know, the kind of aesthetics of these kind of classic sets, but kind of, as I say, reinterpret it and do it in a different way. It's got a little ramp at the back. Oh, I can see some questions coming in now. I'll just show you my little buggy. There's my little buggy, goes in the back. It's got this kind of springy suspension, you can see. So it can kind of bounce around on the moon and all that kind of stuff. So it's flipping around in there. That's a bit that's broken off, but you can see the kind of interior there, which is all kind of themed. I'm going to read my question now. Do I consider appropriate to make sure it houses all the proper components? Do I ever say things like, this ship needs to be bigger so it can have a hyperdrive or things like that? Yeah. I think kind of working out how big things should be Honestly, like lately, I think I've more kind of said, okay, it has to be big enough to fit on my shelves, because I have these shelves where I keep all this stuff. And it's kind of, I was designing something recently and I was like, if I build it like this, it won't fit on the shelves. And you know, where will I put it? Because I have small children, and of course, anything you leave lying around just gets trashed. So honestly, lately, I have sort of been saying, I just have to make it a bit small. You know, just so long as it fits on the shelves, it's fine. But generally, the sort of scaling kind of just sort of sorts itself out. You know, you go, oh well, you know, if I use this part for this, then it'll kind of the whole sort of scale of the thing. The whole sort of scale of the thing will sort itself out.
Ben, I hate to interrupt,
no,
but I
just
wanted to mention to the public that you may need to click on the link above the video box to get the page where you can submit the questions.
Oh yeah, yeah, you
weren't
do.
aware.
I can see questions pouring in now. What gear did I use for the light effects? This is all custom. It's not one of these what brands they have, like you know, brick stuff and all that kind of stuff. I just bought LEDs and batteries off eBay and wire it all up myself, mainly because if you actually just buy LEDs, they are so incredibly cheap, and the official, these sort of kits you get, apparently I'm echoing like crazy. I'm sorry about that. I don't think it's anything I'm doing at my end. If anyone else has an echo problem, please post it on the questions so that we know about it. Maybe it's just one person.
You're definitely coming across fine on our end. So
yeah, I mean, I can hear you just fine. So yeah, it's all just custom. It's just LEDs and wire, and you have a you know, you buy a soldering iron and you kind of do it that way. How long have I built for? I think about 7 or 8 years. Obviously, I built when I was a kid, and then you know, you sort of, you know, you get on with being a grown-up and stuff like that. And then I decided about so I think it was just before my first daughter was born that I just decided I was fed up of being a grown-up, so I would do this instead. I'm just going to get, there's a couple more questions here on the space tank. How did I attach the floor tiles? They're just held on. They're just studded on. They just it's a bit of a fiddle, but you know, there's just lots of tiles and then the occasional stud, and so those tiles, you can turn them because they're all on one stud, and just sort of spent an evening fiddling around with it to get that to work. It just creates quite a nice look for, you know, with relatively straightforward pieces. Is that all Lego? Yes, apart from the LEDs and the wire, but structurally this is all Lego. There's nothing in here that isn't Lego. There's nothing holding it up. There's no sort of non-Lego pieces. And I think actually, I say that, I think there's actually one Mega Bloks bit in here in the end. It's like a grill bit there. It's like Mega Bloks or something. Right, I'm going to move on to the next thing, which involves me standing up and moving around. I apologize in advance if anyone hears any weird noises, because about an hour before I did this, I put my back, I don't know what I did, I picked something up and I hurt my back. And so every time I pick something up now, I kind of go, ooh, like I'm getting old. So what I have to do now is I have to go over here and I have to start moving the laptop around. This is the Arc. This is an enormous, great big thing. Excuse me while I... So this was something that I'd been trying to do for a while, which was just to build a huge, great spaceship. And I wanted to do something that moved. I wanted to do something that had motors in and moved. And the idea, it was kind of one of the first ideas I came up with, was just to do this kind of enormous ring thing that would spin round. It's kind of a science fiction thing, isn't it? It's very difficult for me to point the camera at this thing. And it kind of came out like this. And the bit I really need to show you, and here goes my back again, is if we go real close and we peer in, you should be able to see all the environments of the world slowly going by. Now I built this ship, and these environment panels were built by two other guys, Tim Goddard and a guy called Infert, who you may have seen on Flickr on the interwebs. And they very kindly supplied these little insert pieces to build this. And they kind of aced it as well. I don't think I really expected it to be quite as incredible as it is, and quite as involved and beautiful, with all these different environments and all these different types of terrain. And there's all sorts of things. There is at one place, there's like a little sailing boat sailing around on the ocean in there for you to look at. Again, this thing is all lit up. It uses lots and lots of LEDs to create its, to light up all sorts of things. So you've got like blue light going off in there. You've got lights that shine onto the centrifuge from the middle here so that you can actually light it all up. You've got this reactor thing at the back that spins, and that's just lights flashing. There's nothing actually moving in there. And then we go around the back. You've got this, the mother of all engines, which kind of flickers. It's got lots and lots of flickery lights in it. So it kind of has this nice flickery effect. This thing cheats, as I said about the other thing just now, that it uses, it was all Lego. This thing has metal inside it. So there is an enormous piece of steel, 16mm steel, that runs up, and you can see it here, because obviously it goes all the way up through this big post, and then it goes across to hold the weight up, because frankly, there was no way that Lego was going to hold up the weight of that ring and just go round and round like that. It would have been a right pain, to say the least. I can see a couple of questions here. There's one question that says, what did you use for the windows a few seconds ago? So I assume you're asking about the Ark here. These are just Lego pieces. I think these are these like big 4x4 panel pieces that, and they come in trans clear. So there's just a whole load of them here to do this. Any plans to attend BrickCon in the near future? Yeah, no, totally. No, so this is a thing. And obviously, BrickCon is in the US. I'm here in the UK, and it's I mean, it's just really hard to get there. And so when it was announced that BrickCon would be online, I was very excited by that, because it was an opportunity to kind of attend and be a part of something. I'd love to come do it. I think the odds of taking this thing, even though it can travel and it can be moved around, I don't think this thing could ever go to the US. It would never get there in one piece. Hopefully it will get to some of the shows here in the UK next year, but we'll just have to see. So it's been quite nice to be able to do this and show it to the world at large. No, it's not from Transformers. It's just something that I made up kind of as I went along. I will now attempt to give you a few more sort of detail shots and pictures of various bits going off. I think there's about 10,000 pieces in this thing. Again, it was all designed digitally in LDD and then built for real. Although with something like this, that tends to be very, very tricky, because obviously you're dealing with a lot of issues of just weight and strength. And anything that moves, you basically can't design digitally. You kind of just have to build it for real. But it is surprisingly strong. Having done this. What kind of motors does it use? It just uses 2 Lego Power Functions motors. The small ones. There's actually comparatively little space. There's 2 motors buried in the middle here, up in here somewhere. The main challenge with this was just the friction and just getting it to go round without it sticking, and there's quite a lot of mucking around. If I take the nose cone off here, I'll give you a sort of peek of what's going on inside. Come on. So this bit completely comes off. And you can see on the inside, you should be able to see, there's sort of 6 little wheels driving around the middle. So the whole thing is kind of on bearings. Because that bit spins, you can't get power into it. So it has to carry its batteries around with it, which power all the lights on the actual centrifuge. And you can see this piece of steel that runs through the middle. And so it's 16 mils, which is like 2 studs. So it makes building it kind of easy. And then again, this just has batteries in it because it needs to light up. You can just swap that back on. And occasionally bits fall off, but that's just the nature of Lego, isn't it? Occasionally bits fall off.
Ben, just to give you a heads up, we're about 7 minutes from the end of the session. So
hey, well, and I pretty much finished talking about everything I wanted to talk about. So I guess we just talk amongst ourselves. We just sort of chit chat. If anyone does have any more questions, now would be a really good time to ask them. I hope you can hear me over the noise of the motors, because obviously it's not silent.
Yes, we can definitely hear you. Yeah, the sound is coming through great. What is the actual size of this? I can't quite get the scope of how long is this?
Oh, I measured it the other day. It's like 110 studs long or something like that. I think it's slightly higher. Well, look, this is a 2x4 plate. Does that help? Can you work out how big it is from that? It's what, maybe 3.5 feet high? Because I know you Americans, you all still work in imperial units, rather bizarrely. There's the centrifuge is about 2 feet across.
How often do you need to change the batteries in such a large MOC?
Well, the motors are powered off the mains, so there's actually a wire that runs down through the metal, and it goes out the base. Can you see the wire? And then that goes down to a couple of things plugged into the wall, where it gets 9 volts for the motors. I did that. I think I took it to one show, and it just chews through batteries. So I changed it so it runs off the mains. But I think the things that are powered by batteries, they'll run for the best part of a day. They use incredibly little power, these LEDs.
And how many figs do you have riding around in that lovely?
So it's all micro scale. So what you've got in there, and I hope you can see this, is it's all sort of, you've got like, let me try and get as close as I can. I hope it's in focus. You've got like trees in there. You've got deserts and things coming up. This is the sort of jungle bit next.
Wonderful detail.
There's a little farm thing in there. So I asked these 2 guys just to build, kind of greenery to go on there. Can you see the little boat there? There's a little boat sails around. I asked them to build just greenery, and they sort of turned it into something much more impressive with far many more different kinds of environments than I envisaged. Let me see if there's any more questions. How long did it take to build it? I think easily 18 months. Has it ever fallen apart? Someone says. No, it hasn't. And that's because it's got a bloody great bit of metal running down the middle of it. And that was kind of a deliberate choice that, say, I have small children and this thing doesn't go in a cupboard. It has to sit on the floor. And so I just wanted to make it so that it wouldn't fall apart. Occasionally bits fall off, but touch wood, we've had nothing catastrophic yet. What am I working on now? I am working on another thing with motors in. So a couple of years ago, I said to myself, well, I want to do stuff that moves and has motors in. So I'm working on kind of a transforming spaceship that has bits that open and guns come out. And that, again, has just been very, very challenging to do, because the minute you make something move, it just becomes a real pain to just to develop it and design it, and you have to kind of constantly test it and change it just to get something that works. Sorry, I'm just looking at other questions here. How did you do the tucked in wing without any visible gaps on the front of the classic space? Did I use a computer board? Yes, I did. So there's a tiny little, and it's the same thing here. There's a tiny little circuit board inside that just makes these lights flash on in sequence. And these are sort of very common little things. They're about the size of a sort of a large postage stamp. And you get one of those and it just lets you do this kind of nice little effect. Oh, have I done any other, someone asks if I have done any Star Trek themed builds lately. Yes, so I did a whole bunch of Star Trek stuff, and I kind of put it down because I said to myself, I've done that. You know, I've kind of done enough. I keep thinking I'll do it again, but I haven't. What is it standing on? It's standing on a coffee table. It says it's standing on a coffee table with a blanket on it. But the stand, so this is the metal stand. Hold on. So this, you can see here, is a single piece of steel that goes all the way up through it, which is why it doesn't fall over and break. How long does it take to do from designing and study? Oh God, months. I mean, like 6 months. I don't have a lot of free time to do this, so this is something that I spend a very, very long time. I'm sorry, I'm not on Instagram. I'm on Flickr. If you go to my Flickr, which is flickr.com/3D Adventures. That's 3 THREE, the word 3, the letter D, Adventures. Maybe someone can post that in the chat somewhere. Are the large grey panels on the ring castles? No, they're not. They're just, I think they're just built out of tiles and things, not castle pieces. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. Could you build it with the environments of the world on the outside? Yeah, you could. The way this works, of course, is that the reason it spins is to create gravity for the people on the inside. And the gravity is going that way, towards the outside. That's why it's all on the inside.
Right,
if
Ben,
you were standing on the outside, you would fly off.
Ben, I think we've reached the end of our session here. We want to thank you for your wonderful displays. These are fantastic.